Alright, so let's talk about the OPPO F27 Pro Plus 5G. This phone comes in two configurations. First is 8GB of RAM and 128GB storage, which costs Rs 27,999. And then you have 8GB of RAM plus 256GB of storage, which costs Rs 29,999. So I would call this phone an upper mid-range smartphone. And obviously, this phone will not be as good as a flagship phone, but the real question is, does it even matter? Well, we'll have to find out. Let's start with talking about the display. This phone comes with a 6.7-inch curved AMOLED display with a 120Hz refresh rate and a peak brightness of 950 nits. It has a resolution of 1080 into 2412 pixels. The screen to body ratio is 89.4% and the pixel density is 394 ppi. Now let's compare this display with the display of OnePlus 12R. So on comparing these two, you'll notice that there are small differences. For example, the peak brightness on the OnePlus is so much higher than the peak brightness of the OPPO. The OnePlus also has a bigger display, a higher screen to body ratio, and the screen density is also better than the OPPO. But also keep in mind that the OnePlus costs Rs 39,998. So it is much more expensive than the OPPO F27 Pro Plus 5G. So overall, if I consider that the display on OnePlus 12R is 10 out of 10, then the display on this phone is at least 8 out of 10. Now let's talk about the cameras. This phone has two rear cameras, a 64 megapixel main camera and a 2 megapixel macro camera. The camera on this phone has some positive points and some negative points. Let's talk about the positive points first. In good lighting conditions, when you are with your friends outside on a sunny day, this phone will capture sharp and detailed photos. This phone supports 180p recording at 30 fps, which is good for everyday use. Now let's talk about the negative points. This phone does not have an ultra-wide camera, which is surprising because at this price range, almost every phone has an ultra-wide camera. So if you want to click something like group photos, then it will be difficult. It has an 8 megapixel selfie camera, which is again good enough for casual photos and video calls, but when you zoom in, you're going to lose detail. Overall, the camera on this phone is good enough, but not the best camera at this price range. So if the camera on a flagship killer phone like the Xiaomi 14 CV is 10 out of 10, then the camera on this phone is at least 7.2 out of 10. Talking about the processor, this phone comes with a MediaTek Dimensity 7050 processor, which is a 6 nanometer chip. Now, I'm not going to compare this with the processor of a flagship phone because the difference is so big that there is no point of doing a comparison. Instead, I'm going to compare it with the Motorola H40 5G, which costs Rs 27,385, and it has a MediaTek Dimensity 8020 processor. And if you see the comparison, the Dimensity 8020 is much better, especially for gaming. But you know what's really surprising about this phone? It's the fact that you can put this phone in water for 30 minutes and even after that, this phone will be in working condition. OPPO says that this phone is monsoon ready, and it's a good thing because whenever I step out of my house during rainy season, I have to use a plastic cover for my phone. But with this phone, you don't have to do that. Talking about the display, this phone has a leather finish and the rear camera setup has a Cosmos ring design. And this phone is really thin and lightweight. This phone is 7.89mm thick and it only weighs 177 grams, which is very impressive. Basically, if you're looking for a phone that's easy to handle and not that heavy, then this phone is a good choice. It has two color options, dust pink and midnight heavy. This phone does not have a headphone jack. This phone comes with a 5000 mAh battery and it supports 67 watt fast charging, and it goes from 0 to 56% in just 56 minutes. It supports reverse charging as well. It runs on ColorOS 14, which is based on Android 14. Overall, the OPPO F27 Pro Plus 5G is like an all-rounder. For casual users, it is a really great phone. It is very durable, has a good design, and is very lightweight. But if you are into gaming or want the best camera at this price segment, then there are definitely better options available. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.